Welcome to Roundball Stew. I am Matt Stroup. It is Friday, July 29th, and today we are looking at position battles and their fantasy impact in the Western Conference. Now, last Friday, we hit the Eastern Conference position battles, so check that episode out if you haven't already. Today, it's the West, as I said, and I'm joined by Steve Alexander and Jared Johnson, who is in a new location today. It's throwing me off. I'm also in a new location. Everything has changed. I'm confused. What's going on? What's the word, Jared? Where are we?
I'm officially in my new spot.
Nice.
Took a little bit to find this place, but no more cats. That's the biggest plus.
That's big. It's big.
2 dogs.
Steve's shaking his. Steve, you can't even say the word cats around Steve without upsetting him, by the
way. Dude, there are 4 cats in my world.
That's a lot of cats.
That's too many.
I'm
like one cat. I'm 1 cat away from being crazy cat guy.
Yeah, 5 is when it officially happens, they say.
Yeah, and I mean that could happen at any moment, really. But yeah, I was just looking out my window, and I had all my bobbleheads all lined up but I had to take them all down because they kept breaking them and getting up there and gazing out the window, dreaming about being outside. Well, and then I took all of their food bowls and put them all outside. So if I could get the kids to stop letting the cats in the house, we would actually be getting somewhere. But whatever.
We have only 1 cat, and it's a lot. I mean, the most annoying things that she does in my mind are, like, I'll have a glass of water on the bedside table, and I'll sometimes catch her drinking it, and it's like, now I don't know when you've been drinking my stuff at any time, because you can get anywhere in the house, so that's unsettling. And secondly, late at night, she wants to eat all the time, but at some point you can't just feed your cat nonstop, right? So she'll wait by the kitchen and then do this little sprint in. She'll kind of try to get you to go into the kitchen, and she shuffles in with you and tries to steer you toward the food area, and it's very draining.
The latest thing we've figured out is that a possum comes and eats the cat food at night, and I have video of the possum.
Wow,
dude, this thing is like a 10-pound possum. It's like a whopper. He's been eating my cat food for 10 years.
Those
he's
are
so fat,
wild
and
creatures.
He's like the happiest possum in the world. And yeah, he comes every night and he eats cat food. So I go through a $25 bag of cat food about every 6 days. We also have we've also discovered recently that there are armadillos in Dahlonega.
Really?
Yeah, and my neighbor had 2 of them running around in his backyard the other day. They were like his cats. So
amazing.
I'm waiting for the armadillos to show up at my house.
Bet you don't have armadillos where you live, Jared.
I do not. Yeah. Lots of weird bugs in Nevada, though, I'm discovering. Anyways.
Start. Well, this is turned into nature talk with Matt, Steve, and Jared. We're gonna call an audible here. We're gonna talk animals the entire podcast.
Just talk about animals.
Let's get into these position battles, fellas. We're going to start in Dallas, and this one's for you, Steve. We've talked about this a little bit already, so I don't know that we need to go too far on this one, but the position battle here is in the front court. Believe it or not, it's one I never thought that I would type. It's Christian Wood versus Javale Mcgee. Now, via Tim Cato of The Athletic, there was talk. He basically projected that Wood slates to come off the bench as of this point in the offseason with Javale Mcgee starting. Now, I don't know how much we really think this matters for fantasy, whether we think this will come to fruition. Where are you currently on this one, Steve? And then we'll hear from you, Jared.
I mean, that just makes no sense to me whatsoever. I don't know why Christian Wood and JaVale McGee both will not be starting for Dallas.
Well, I mean, sorry to interrupt you. I think it has to do with Spencer Dinwiddie projected to start and Dorian Finney-Smith starting. And who else am I forgetting? Oh, and Reggie Bullock was projected to start in that world. And then they have a guy named Luka Doncic.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not signing Christian Wood to bring him off the bench. I'm sorry. I just don't get it. I don't see why don't start JaVale McGee, Christian Wood, Dorian Finney-Smith. Bullock and Luka, and Dinwiddie needs to come off the bench. You know, when I'm coach of the Mavs, which should happen I think they're going to announce it.
It's
like August 15th.
Yeah, we've been trending that way for a while.
My agent told me around August 15th is when I'd be able to really dive into that.
Yeah.
I will be starting those guys, and Spencer Dinwiddie will be coming off the bench, backing up Luka, playing on those, those 15 games when Luka's out with a sprained right ankle. Dinwiddie's time to shine, but I don't know how you don't start both of those guys together.
Jared?
Or just don't start McGee. I mean, it's just weird. It's a soon-to-be 27-year-old Christian Wood versus a will-be 35 JaVale McGee, and we're talking about that as a position battle. McGee has been long time reserve. I maybe they're talking about him starting kind of like he did on the Warriors a little bit, like as a 15-minute starter, where he just kind of is in the game as a lob target, but then you get in Wood. But I don't know how Wood would handle that. I mean, Wood has had issues in locker rooms regarding touches, and I can't imagine him being happy with coming off the bench. I thought the reason they brought him in was to give Luka a true number 2. Why is he going to be a super sub? So I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit of smoke and mirrors. I guess if this is how it actually plays out, I guess I would be a little bit less interested in Wood, and I'd be willing to take a late round flyer on McGee. But it's such a strange situation. I don't necessarily believe it just yet.
Yeah, and I mean, look, it's July, so this could fade. This could change. They could change what they're saying. I mean, I think Tim Cato, is pretty plugged into what's going on with the team. So, I mean, that seems to be the thinking right now, or a pretty valid projection right now. But again, it's July, so I mean, could change, like you said. So, yeah, at this point, we're not gonna overcorrect or anything like that. But if Christian Wood's coming off the bench as the season starts, I mean, I still think he's closing games too. So it's not like I'd even move him that far down my draft board, but it's just something to watch and keep in mind.
I think it does. I think it will make him more readily available in the 30s instead of people reaching on him. Like if Christian Wood really is going to come off the bench, that's probably good news for where
could see him falling even further than that if he's coming off the bench.
Round 6 territory.
5,
round
4.
6.
I mean, I could see, or I could see him in like the 50 to 60 range. I don't know. We widely vary on our projection, obviously.
I think again, it's July. It's July for us too. Like we don't have to have our rankings in order for a couple months. So.
Right, or ever. Let's go to Jared's team now, the Warriors. We have a Kevon Looney, James Wiseman situation. Obviously, Looney had that really strong playoffs. And James Wiseman is notably playing basketball again after showing some flashes at Summer League. Jared, as the resident Warriors enthusiast, what are you envisioning from these two guys? Are you envisioning like a split of minutes? Do you think?
Unfortunately, I think it could be a timeshare situation. It'll be a little bit disappointing to me if Wiseman can't get the starting gig. He was the number 2 overall pick. And we just haven't seen much of anything of him. So I'm not really ready to judge him. Like I still like him as a potential late round pick. But the Dubs just won a championship with Kevon Looney as the starting center. They kind of have a good thing going. I'm not sure that, there's a lot going in Looney's favor and less going in Wiseman's favor. That said, I do think that even if it's kind of a 25-minute split, I still think that Wiseman could be effective. He's a very talented guy. Again, we've seen very little of him. There's talk in the Twitter sphere of him being a bust, and I don't think that's a fair label to put on this young man just yet.
Yeah, that makes sense. Steve?
That whole draft was weird, right? Anthony Edwards went number 1. He's turned out to be a pretty good player. And then Wiseman went 2. LaMelo Ball went 3rd. And then it was just a bunch of guys, man. Patrick Williams, Isaac Okoro, your guy Kanu, Killian Hayes, Obi Toppin. Like that was a rough draft. As far as this position battle goes, Kevon Looney was kind of awesome last year when the Warriors needed him to be, like really came through in the clutch. But I mean, Wiseman should be the starter.
Right.
I think Looney is more of a role player in the NBA. Wiseman has star potential. It's going to be a timeshare either way, regardless of who wins the job. I'm not real excited about drafting either one of those guys. And Golden State's has another huge position battle as far as minutes go with Draymond Green and Jonathan Kuminga. So it's going to be weird. They're deep. They're going to be able to rest guys and be ready for the playoffs. So yeah, I'm not drafting Kevon Looney, and I'm probably not drafting James Wiseman.
I mean, we've talked about how Wiseman, there's a chance that he's falling far enough in drafts to where it's worth taking a chance on him. Yeah. I think what needs to happen is, whether he's starting or not, he needs to convince Steve Kerr that he should be on the floor at the end of games, because Kerr is perfectly willing to go small and had great success doing that. So why does he need to force Wiseman onto the floor? I mean, maybe Wiseman's talent will take him to that level. It's possible. But in terms of fantasy, Wiseman landed in such a bad spot because he's a guy who we could imagine putting up, eye-popping numbers on a terrible team right now, Right. And he has sort of that dynamic skill set where he could jack up a bunch of threes and block a bunch of shots and just be the focal point of an awful team. Man, he'd be a fantasy dream, right, on a lottery-bound team. But I just don't know if the path is really there for that at all on the way this Warriors roster is constructed. I think we're looking at a much lower ceiling.
I think that's fair. Yeah. But, 25 minutes, maybe there's potential for like 12, 8, 1.5 threes, 1.5 blocks. I'd take that.
I mean, that would be awesome. Yeah. And even slightly less than that would be neat, like could he do like the Brook Lopez thing, like 12 and 6 with a 3, 1 to 1.5 threes and 1 to 1.5 blocks. Like that's a valuable fantasy player, So he doesn't have to do that much, and he certainly has the skills to do that. So we love Wiseman. We're taking him in the second round. That's what we
should. Matt, you should really start using the word neat a lot more.
You always seem to enjoy it when I say that.
I like it.
We're going to Houston now. This is a fun one. This might be just looking at the list, this is among my favorite ones that we're going to talk about, because I think there's a lot going on here. Tary Easton, the number 17 overall pick, had that really exciting summer league, around 17 points, 10.5 rebounds. I wrote down 1.8 steals, but I think that's wrong. Maybe that's right. 1.8 steals, 1.0 blocks, 1.4 threes, I think, in summer league. Anyways, lots of fun stats for him. But meanwhile, you've got veterans, including Jayshawn Tate, Eric Gordon, in the equation there at small forward. Jared, I know you have a couple other guys you want to put into this conversation as well, but Steve, you first. What are your thoughts on this situation?
There's a lot going on here. There are like Houston now has a million wings. Like Jalen Green, Garrison Matthews, Jayshawn Tate. You didn't even mention Josh Christopher.
Well, Jared, I was saving that for letting Jared have a shot at that one.
Eric Gordon, Tary Easton. Like, there's so many guys. Jabari Smith, KJ Martin. It's kind of a mess. Like, the Houston Rockets are, like, to me, they're going to be one of the most fun teams to watch on TV this year.
Absolutely.
Like, I feel like that is just going to be a hot mess. It's going to be fun. It's just going to be weird. But I like Tary Easton a lot, but can he get enough minutes with all those other dudes there? Like,
I don't know.
I don't know that I'm drafting any Rockets this year outside. You guys know how I feel about KPJ, Kevin Porter Jr. He'll probably be on my team one way or another. But the rest of them is
doubling down.
It's a mess.
I will be drafting Jabari Smith for starters wherever I can, and I'm high on Şengün too. But Jared, you go ahead, because we haven't even talked about.
I can't wait till Şengün busts you again this year.
Please.
I mean, KPJ, hold on. You're doubling down on KPJ. That's a weird one for me. But anyways, I will be drafting Jalen Green happily. The situation here is right here in the shooting guard, small forward position. Now, what I'm kind of expecting to happen is to Eric Gordon not get really a ton of minutes, maybe kind of no minutes this season. I know that he's in a contract year. It's time. They have a billion wings here. Like, let the young guys shine and let him take on a mentorship role. Maybe they trade him for something to a contender. But Josh Christopher is the guy that draws my eye the most out of this group. He looked good when he was given opportunities last season, and he played well at Summer League. He had 19.7 points, 4.3 boards, 3 dimes, 1.7 steals, 1.7 swats. Maybe he doesn't start, but I do think that he could be an effective six-man. And even I could see him getting 30 minutes off the bench. I think that he could be a guy who kind of has a sophomore explosion. So he's a guy that I'm excited about. Mm-hmm. This is assuming that Eric Gordon kind of is out of the rotation. Less minutes for Garrison Matthews. Easton. I mean, he was great at Summer League. There's a lot going on here for him to be able to get minutes as a rookie. I mean, I know that this is a young team, but like Jayshawn Tate's there. Garrison Matthews, I mean, I think he's a rotation player. So it's hard for me to figure out where his minutes would come. KJ Martin's going to back up Jabari unless he can get, I think with him, we're more so talking about backup minutes, maybe kind of like a 20-minute role. Maybe. I don't know. How do you feel?
Mean, no, I think anything's on the table. I don't think it's out of the question that he gets handed the starting job. He was the number 17 pick. It's not the number 3 pick, right? But I mean, it's not nothing. And so Josh Christopher, I do like too, by the way. He's definitely on my radar. I mean, I haven't landed where I am on Tary Easton in terms of will he be like a last round pick for me, or will he be a guy that I'm, thinking he could explode in like February, March, April, when things spiral into silliness. I don't know where I am on that one yet, but it's definitely just, we're all watching the situation. I mean, if I'm not going to be drafting the Jayshawn Tates of this roster though, just because I don't see the path to season long value for a guy like that.
I feel like training camp and preseason is going to be huge to figure out what's going on in Houston. Yeah. Like there's so many question marks out there right now that I mean, it almost make your head spin to look at their depth chart.
But if we scooch down to that center spot, I also want to mention Usman Garuba, who was a lottery pick last year, I believe.
He was definitely a first rounder. I'll double
definitely check. A first rounder. I wouldn't sleep on this guy. We didn't see him at all at Summer League, but look, he's 20 years old. He played a lot of professional ball overseas before he was drafted. And with Wood gone, there's just a lot of minutes to fill in that front court. Şengün could definitely start, and I'd say he's probably the favorite to do so. But, I wouldn't be shocked if Guzman is able to kind of, similar to what we were saying with Wiseman, if he can kind of carve out a 25-minute reserve role and split minutes with Şengün, he's a guy who has the ability to do across-the-board kind of contributions. His offense was raw his rookie year, but he's had an entire year to work on that. And he's a superb passer for a big man. He plays really good defense. I think that maybe he can add a 3. Who knows? I mean, every center in the league's adding a 3, but
he can make them. I've seen it happen on video before.
So that's a guy. He's definitely more of a deep league guy, but he's a guy who I'm very interested in as a potential deep league sleeper.
I'm also interested. I'm sorry, Steve. I'm also interested in what you did a second ago, Jared. You took the first letter of his last name and attached it to his first name. You turned him into Guzman for a second.
Garuba.
That's fine. Steve, what were you going to say?
Goose and Maverick. I just can't wait till Garuba ruins Alperen Şengün and
Steve.
Matt Straub's entire draft.
I can't believe how far you've gone the other direction on Şengün.
I'm not touching that dude ever again.
I've never I cannot wait for this Şengün shirt I'm gonna get. In fact, that may be the one that I get for the Luka bet that I still haven't collected on from this past season.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry, what? Did Luka win or lose you that free throw bet this past season?
So I owe both of you a jersey. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, King Jaw could go right there.
I'm going to get a Şengün one, and I might start flying it behind me as well during the podcast. Will
you kick it over to Jared and let him say, now let's scooch on down to this next position battle? I want to hear him say scooch again.
Jared?
I think we have a scooching on down to LA Clippers for our next one.
That's right. Perfect. That is correct. What a wild point guard situation here. It is the point guard position battle that we've always dreamed of. It's Reggie Jackson versus John Wall. Now, okay, Reggie for starters. I'm just going to lay out both guys here.
Interesting.
I'm just going to, well, I didn't mean that. I'm going to lay out both guys' recent performances, and we'll just say where we land here. He had a good year in terms of some counting stats. Points per game, just short of 17, 3.6 rebounds, 4.8 assists, 2.2 three-pointers, and he played 75 games. You know, he's not a total zero, but he also shot below 40% from the field and had just 0.7 steals. Those are issues in terms of fantasy. Meanwhile, John Wall, you might be blown away by this. I certainly was. Has played a total of 40 games since December of 2018. That's the last 3.5 years. He has played 40 games. 40 games in 3.5 years. I had to let that sink in for a minute. I mean, December of 18, that was a real long time ago.
How old is he again?
He's turning 32 in September. So when we last saw him in 2020-21 for those 40 games, 20.6 points, 6.9 assists, 1.1 steals, 0.8 blocks, 2.0 threes. So he still had it in like terms of points leagues, but it's no surprise that came with 40.4% from the floor, just below 75 from the line, and 3.5 turnovers. So, Steve, the bottom line is either guy going to be someone we can even consider in traditional 9-category fantasy leagues?
No.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And it's too bad Pat Beverly's still not there, right? Like that would really make that fun to have all three of those dudes. But yeah, John Wall, I don't think he was even those numbers you read off from that 2021 season were not bad.
No, the counting stats are pretty good.
But I think prior to that, he wasn't even stealing the ball, and his free throws are garbage. And I don't know, man. How he's 32? Is that
almost? He'll be 32 when the season starts.
Yeah, I'm not touching either one of them. I'd rather have Xavier Moon on my team, I think.
Jared?
Yeah, let me get my notes out. No.
Let me check my notes.
Let me check my notes here. Oh, yes, here it is. No. Yeah. Like, the best I can do here is one of these guys gets injured. But even if Wall is injured, like we've seen, I just read you the Reggie Jackson numbers, and there's still issues. Like he's gonna torpedo your field goal percentage, and so you have like a top 150 guy if Wall is out of the equation. And with Wall, it's just how much are you willing to take on the guy who might have the most turnovers on your fantasy team, and also take you down in percentages. It's just at what cost, man? At what cost? Like it's just not worth it for 20-7 or 18-8 or whatever he's going to give you. I don't know.
Let me go ahead and check my notes here. But it is kind of interesting that team, the LA Clippers, has Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and John Wall on it. Like you just read that on paper, it's like, ooh.
It's like, ooh, what year is this?
Oh. Yeah. But then you check your notes, and you're like, yeah.
Oh yeah. It says here it's 2022. Okay. All right. We have more to come. First, we're going to take a quick break. A reminder, if you don't have the NBC Sports Predictor app powered by PointsBet, go and download it now. The contests are free and easy to play. and you have a shot to win thousands by predicting what will happen in Major League Baseball, on the PGA Tour, and NASCAR circuit. We also have a special contest on Tuesdays and Thursdays called Battle of the Bets, where you can agree or disagree with our experts for a shot to collect some cash. Let us go now to a place commonly referred to as Oklahoma City. And so much talk about Chet Holmgren this summer, but I think we're projecting him to start at center for this team, unless either of you want to say otherwise. And if that's the case, that leaves some intrigue at power forward for the Thunder, where it looks like, despite all of the moving parts on this Oklahoma City roster, this could come down to a Darius Bazley, Alexei Pokusevsky situation. Jared, what do you make of this one? Checking your notes?
I mean, who are these guys? Who are we talking about? Give me Chet all day. I'm sorry. That's where my brain's at. The only guy I'm interested in OKC is Chet, the 7-footer, almost 200-pound guy, shot blocking maestro, 3-point shooting kid out of Minnesota. I don't have no faith in Bazley. Bazley. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. I don't know. Poku.
Poku. Okay. Yeah. Carry on. I'll let you finish.
No, that was it.
Steve, I in preparing for this podcast, I started to get myself excited about Poku all over again. Where are you now?
How dare Jared come on here with me and disrespect Poku like that? Like, that is garbage. Garbage take. I don't like it. The only guy you're interested in OKC is Chet
and Giddey.
Yeah, that's it. Have you ever heard of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander?
Yeah, he plays like 50 games.
Yeah, shut down Gilgeous-Alexander, Steve. Is what we call him.
That
was basically. You guys know I'm kind of a Bazley guy. I like Bazley.
I like under 40% shooting.
I love. Well, that's my jam. I love that. Kevin Porter Jr. I just do a field goal percentage tank, right from the jump. But there's a lot of guys. Kendrick Williams just signed an extension. Lou Dort is back.
Yeah.
Bazley, Poku, Shai, Giddey. Like, there's a lot of guys. Chet, Poku. Like, I will be drafting Poku late because he's just a freak. And him and Chet out there together, like, that's going to be the two skinniest guys in the entire league. Derek Favors, don't forget Derek Favors. He's back for his 22nd season, I believe.
So as for SGA, I really do actually hope that I would love it. I mean, he does put up awesome numbers. It'd be so great if he wasn't playing in OKC, where the shutdown is just in the water basically. I mean, like I don't know. It's frustrating that
we need to figure out. Is OKC going to tank this year? Like that, before we do anything, we need to figure that out.
And I don't think we should make the assumption that they are.
I don't know. I just saw like a random clip on Twitter of Victor Wembanyama hitting a straightaway three from the logo or whatever.
He's insane. But is OKC, are they able to be as bad as like San Antonio now? Like, I don't know that OKC can effectively tank because they have so much
they talent. They'll find a way. I mean, it's still a really.
You guys think? What's the over/under on SGA's games played this year?
56.5.
I'll take the under.
How many games did Chet play?
I don't know, man, but that's just an exciting guy to have on your team.
I think I'd still take the under on 60 for Chet too, probably. I hate to say it.
I feel like Chet's a guy that if I drafted him and it really got to a situation where we were fearing a shutdown, you could still move him for quality assets.
I think so.
He's a guy that I want on my team.
What I've said is you trade Chet at the moment of the season when you say to yourself, I can't trade this guy. That's when you send out the offers to people, because that's the moment that other people are thinking, "Ooh, man, I got it." Once you're at the point where you want to trade him, no one else wants him at that point.
Jared, where are you drafting Chet?
I'd like to play face down poker for just a little bit longer, but
first round.
I mean, I hear people talking about round 3. That seems high to me. I mean, I don't want to reach quite that high. It seems like I feel like I've read a Steve tweet indicating round 3 area. That's a little high, but round 4, I would be comfortable there.
All right, I will take him in round 3.
Okay, now that I know Jared's taking him in 4, got it. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and take him in 3rd.
Let me check my notes.
Yeah.
Oh yes, round 3 is when. No, but I mean round 3 just sounds right to me. If you want Chet, I think that's where you're going to have to take him. And what about I don't Baisley and Poku? Like I don't know. I don't think you want Baisley or Poku on your team, and if you do have them on your team, you're going to be taking them in like 10, 11, 12.
I should be able to
flyer.
Yeah. So let's talk about
15.
those guys, since that was the original position battle that we were going to talk about here. Baisley, here's the good for him. Just turned 22 years old, coming off a season where he averaged around 11.6 rebounds, 0.8 steals, 1 block, and 1.2 threes. Percentages are a little shaky, but he's cracked the 40% plateau, guys. 42.2% was a career high. Whatever. I mean, with the steals, blocks, and threes, there's at least a skill set there for a fantasy breakout to happen in the right situation. As for Poku, over his final 25 games, this guy averaged around 12 points, 7 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 0.8 steals, 0.8 blocks, 1.5 threes. He got his percentages in order, 44.5 from the floor, 78 from the line. He's still just 20 years old. I think that a Poku breakout really could happen while everyone's thinking about Chet. Understandably, deservedly, I think there's a chance that Poku proves to be a great late round pick this year. It's a gamble. Like it could totally backfire, but I see myself drafting him late in drafts just to see what happens, because so much intrigue here. I know Steve's with me, and I see Jared starting to nod too.
Yeah, no.
Oh, Jared's a no. Okay.
Check your notes, Jared.
Got it. Steve, I know you're kind of with me on that one.
Dude, I love Poku. If I would have lost, if I would have won my bet with y'all and you were sending me a jersey, one of them would be a Poku.
Yeah.
For sure.
Did you say for jersey?
For jersey.
I mean, he's a guy you can presumably draft late and just drop if 2 weeks in you don't like what you see. So
for jersey, my nersey.
I mean, there's late round guys are just swinging for stuff. I get it, but I think there's other guys out there I'd rather have.
That's fair. Okay, so let's go to Sacramento, where from my vantage point, the Kings have made themselves another beautiful mess in terms of position overlap. Mainly, I think it's at shooting guard, where they have added both Kevin Huerter and Malik Monk. Jared, do you worry like me about these two just kind of crushing each other's value? Do you like either of these guys this season?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I feel like it's a straight 50-50. Can't tell right now. When Monk was a free agent, he was explicitly talking about wanting more opportunity. And then when he signed, there was a report from the Sacramento Bee saying the opportunity, he was not guaranteed a starting spot, but opportunity was discussed. Now, this was the day before they traded for Huerter. Both guys are capable of putting up fantasy stat-worthy lines when they're given the minutes. So I would say whoever gets the starting job is someone who I'd be intrigued by as a late round flyer. But it's tough for me to right now project who's going to win it. But that's certainly a position battle that I'll be watching.
Let me check my notes. That's going to be a no. Kevin Huerter, Malik Monk. They can battle it out all day long. It's going to be a 50-50 split. It's going to be a timeshare. They're both going to be intriguing and probably serviceable, but nothing more than that. Bring on the Keegan Murray show. Let's do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm worried about Huerter and Monk. I don't, especially because it's Sacramento. I sometimes wonder if they have a plan.
What they're doing.
Yeah, it's just like here, this guy. We like this guy, but I don't know that they always think about the fit. I mean, I don't know. It's just And I hope that I think that Harrison Barnes and Keegan Murray can coexist. I hope that they're both versatile enough. I'm cautiously optimistic, I think, on that one. Yeah.
And let's not forget that Davion Mitchell is hanging around there too. He's going to play some minutes at the 2, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
A mess.
I was going to talk about the Lakers shooting guard situation, guys, but then I looked at all of these guys and I was just thinking to myself, I don't want any of these guys in fantasy, whether it's Lonnie Walker or Austin Reeves or Taylor Horton Tucker, or I mean, I guess if Buddy Hield ends up with LA, then I think we have something to talk about there. But would there be any of those guys that you would be enthusiastic about, either of you, if we knew that they were the starter?
I mean, I'd be shocked if Lonnie Walker wasn't the starter.
Yeah.
I wouldn't view him as anything more than a late round flyer.
Yeah. I mean, he's just points and threes, right? Like he can get
kind of threes too. It's like,
yeah.
So it's like points.
Yeah.
A little bit one dimensional.
Pretty hollow stat line.
Okay. Yeah. And Austin Reeves is just, I mean, he's a role player. He just comes off the bench and hits threes. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah. Austin Reeves, in the games he started, I think 19 of them averaged 9.1 points per game without many peripheral stats. And that was getting, I think, like 26 minutes per game or something like that in those games. So he got his chances to start, and there just wasn't a lot of fantasy upside there. We've got a few more situations to hit here. I want to, at the end of this, get to a couple position battles that may not be position battles at all. But, Jared, there are a couple teams here. Did you have any... I think you maybe had some thoughts about Memphis and Denver. Do you want to quickly hit those before we move to my non-position battles?
I can do Denver real quick. The Denver thing is mainly my intrigue is with Bones here. Mm-hmm. Just because Jamal Murray there's reports of him still potentially not being ready for the start of the season. And if and when he does play, he's going to have a minutes cap. Is he going to go full Jonathan Isaac on us? Is he going to miss 2 seasons for this ACL tear? I think it was ACL tear.
ACL.
So that's what intrigues me about Bones. It's less of a position battle, but just there could be a ton of opportunity at the point. He's looked good last year. Maybe Mike Malone will be a little bit more willing to play him as a sophomore. So that's a guy I like. If y'all have anything to contribute to that, I can move on to Memphis.
I like your take on Bones. I think this Jamal Murray thing, I don't think he's going to miss the season, but they're going to be super careful with him. He's working his way back, et cetera, et cetera. I think Bones, like, you can get him super late in your fantasy draft, and he could really have some decent value. And if MPJ does the same thing as Murray does, and his back is jacked up again this year, then maybe Bruce Brown finally gets some fantasy love.
Okay, and Memphis, Jared?
Yeah, so Memphis, we kind of had Adams versus Clark. I think that Adams is going to be the starting center. They were games shy of a 61 season, so that would surprise me. But even if he's a starter, I'm not drafting Steven Adams. Clark, he's shown us that even in a 25-minute reserve role, he's highly capable of chipping in across-the-board production. He doesn't really hurt you anywhere. And with Jaren Jackson Jr., essentially, I mean, his season's in jeopardy yet again. I think that Clark is the guy that you want out of these guys. And then real quick, a potential deep league guy from this, their rookie David Roddy, who they just drafted. I think that he does have the potential to emerge with some fantasy value in deep leagues. He had a 3-year collegiate career, so he's technically a little bit more developed than other rookies. And in his junior year, he put in averages of 19.2 points, 7.5 boards, 2.9 dimes, 1.5 triples, 1.2 steals, and 1.1 blocks per game in his junior year at Colorado State. He plays with a lot of hustle on defense. I think that'll endear him to the culture in Memphis. So he's kind of a guy who I have my eye on in deep leagues. As a guy who could pick up minutes with no JJJ.
And I am not going to forget about Kenny Lofton Jr. either, because every time I've spoken to anyone about him or read anything about him, it's like, he's not going to do anything. He's too big. He's he's too heavy to play in the NBA. If you watched him play in summer league, dude, he balled out. Like, he looked good to me. And with Jaren Jackson Jr. being hurt and Brandon Clark being Brandon Clark, I think Kenny Lofton Jr. is somebody who is going to get zero respect. He's probably not going to be drafted in any fantasy drafts, but I could see him making an impact this year. I do like Clark. I think Clark is one of those guys. Clark and Bones, who we talked about in Denver, are both guys I think you can draft at the end of your draft, and they can help you win your fantasy league. I'm hoping Kenny Lofton Jr. gets enough minutes to also do some damage.
I just think the problem is he's limited to games because he's on a two-way deal.
Yeah.
I also think Clark could be a guy we see going in the middle of drafts. Well, depending on Jaren Jackson Jr.'s forecast, right? I mean, would you disagree with that, Jared?
I hope he wouldn't. I mean, I could see it because that's technically where he ranks. I like him as a late round target. I like say 8.
Yeah,
we're talking mid rounds.
Yeah,
8 is fair.
I guess in my mind, for some reason, I had like the 7th round range, and if you wanted to kind of ensure that you got him, I don't know. I really think, I don't know. I like him a lot, and this is probably the best setup he's had.
Yes,
after
I agree.
Showing some things in the playoffs.
But I would not be surprised if you could get him in 8 or 9.
Maybe.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know that everybody's going to be. It also depends on how much we hype him up and other sites hype him up before it gets here. But
yeah. All right, let's close this out with a couple of, as I said, non-position battles. I look at the situation in Portland at shooting guard, and it looks to me like maybe this is Anthony Simons' position here after signing a 4-year, $100 million deal. I mean, unless for some reason, they opt to start Gary Payton II or something like that, Steve, it seems like Anthony Simons is ready to run with this shooting guard role.
Looks that way. I mean, Keon Johnson and Shadon Sharp do not scare me. I think GP2 is not going to play over Simons. I think Simons is ready to blow it up. Last year's waiver wire pickup of the years might be this year's 5th round pick that ends up turning into a monster. I don't know. Where does Anthony Simons go in your draft, Matt Stroup?
Well, my concerns with him are if he doesn't have the ball all the time, he's not going to get a lot of assists, and he doesn't get a lot of steals. So as a starting point guard, I would like him a lot more, and I'd be a lot more willing to live with his lack of steals because I know he can make up for that with assists, and he got better in assists as the season went on last year. But as like a secondary playmaker, what's he going to get? I mean, is he going to get 3 to 4 assists per game, something like that? As a starter last year, starting at point guard, he averaged 22 points, 5.5 assists, 0.6 steals, and 4.1 threes. I think he can get you a lot of points and threes this year, but I don't know what else exactly he's going to get you. What do you think, Jared?
I'm in agreement with you. I mean, they gave him all that money for a reason, and they didn't sign another 2 guard unless they were going to start Josh Hart and do something weird at small forward. I think that the opportunity is there for him. Like you guys said, the problem is the stat set. If he was averaging 5 assists as a starting point guard, 22 points, he likes shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's like 3 assists and like 18 points and 2 threes.
I would ramp up the threes. I can picture him being like one of those, like a 3-pointer per game guy.
That's true.
3+. He has that ability. And like 18 points to me sounds like a reasonable, like, median expectation. I think he could do more than that potentially. So I do like him, Steve. I just don't know if I'm aggressive on him just because of my concerns about the assist and steals as the shooting guard.
Yeah, I agree with that. And last year we were picking him up off the waiver wire, so it was just free. And this year you're going to have to take him in 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there. And that's different because then you've got an investment there. So,
right.
But I do think he's going to be fun, and I think him and Damian Lillard will be the new Lillard and CJ. obviously CJ McCollum.
Okay, gotcha.
Should be fun. Should be fun.
Last one, and Jared, you brought this one up, is with DeJounte Murray now playing for the Atlanta Hawks. You look at the point guard situation in San Antonio, and it is Trey Jones, and we don't know what else. It's like the Trey Jones show all of a sudden, isn't it, Jared?
It looks like it. They've yet to bring on another free agent, and if you look at the available free agents, I don't see them bringing on Kemba Walker, Dennis Schroeder. And then after that, it's DJA, IT2. All these guys are reserves. Frank Jackson, Rondo. So it looks like it's about to be the Trey Jones show in San Antonio. And 11 games as a starter last season, 13.5 points, 7.5 dimes, 1.1 steals, and just 1.1 turnovers per game with solid percentages. I like this guy a lot. I think that he has massive sleeper potential, assuming we don't hype him up too much. But he's a guy that he gets those categories that are rare and you need. So he's one of my favorite way too early late round targets.
Yeah. I'm on your – I land with you on this one. Like those assists you mentioned as a starter, 7.5 assists. And I think the only thing really missing for him as a fantasy point guard is threes. Mm-hmm. He did not hit a lot of those last year. So,
but he also didn't play last year.
No, but I mean, even as a starter, I think he was around like 0.3 per game or something like that.
It was,
if I serves correctly. So that you're not necessarily getting that. I mean, the guys can improve their 3-point production year over year, but either way, I mean, a guy who is that going to be that far down. The guy who's going to be that Jared's dog is being heard from here.
I thought that was your dog.
No.
Jungle.
That
worked. To mute my mic. That didn't work.
San Antonio is going to be fun, man. Trey Jones and Devin Vassell both should just blow up this year. I'm not super excited about Dougie McBuckets. Keldon Johnson is going to
Keldon Johnson will be a points and threes all-star this year.
Points and threes all-star. Well, in San Antonio are points and threes all-stars, the whole team pretty much. And then your boy Jakob Poeltl going to be out there getting it done. But I'm excited about Trey Jones and I'm excited about Devin Vassell. And I'm gonna watch the Spurs, I think.
Wow. That's big news. Again, second year in a row, Steve.
Second year in a row.
You kind of like the Spurs last year too.
Really turning over a new leaf here.
Before we go, let's continue our off-season birthday series, guys. It's July 29th, Friday. Now, not a lot of action today in terms of current NBA players who have birthdays. Steve's putting on his party hat, so thank you, Steve, for being prepared. Thursday, though, we had Frank Ntilikina, among others. And on Sunday, looking ahead to Sunday, Thomas Bryant and Hamidou Diallo. Steve's got the party pipe out, so exciting stuff.
Happy birthday, boys.
Jared, it's your first
birthday
celebration. That is going to do it for us on this episode. Don't forget to subscribe.
Matt, you need to tell your Dan Patrick story, right?
Or
no?
I mean, I could.
Just do it real quick. It's funny. I love that story. I think about it all the time.
I mean, okay, I'll do it. I was about to sign off, but
yeah, I always interrupt your sign-offs.
Well, no, I wrote for Dan Patrick at a couple of Olympics, and one of the guys who we worked with, like the researcher on the show at the Olympics, had a birthday during the Olympics. And so Dan Patrick really got into that. And literally every time he would see the guy afterwards, he would just launch into singing happy birthday, but he would never start at the beginning. It was always, happy birthday to you. He would just come in the room seamlessly, just like see the guy whose name was Dan, also Dan, and be like, Bieber, like Dan, the researcher might have something to say to him, like a question or, hey, Dan, I got your notes here. Bieber, it was like, it's tremendous. Really hilarious stuff. So
I love it so
we'll
much.
Just do the birthday
to
there you have it.
You and many more.
There you have it. All right. That is really going to do it for us on this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever you listen. Take a minute to rate and review us as well. We are back here next Friday, as we will continue to be here on Fridays for the foreseeable future. I want to say thanks to everyone for listening and watching live with us. Steve, Jared, thanks to both of you. I shall talk to you soon. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, boys.
Adios.